ora, Lara here, and today I'm going to share a layout that I'm creating using the new Everyday You and Me scrapbooking collection by Stampin Up. So this is a kit format, so I'm just going to go through what you get in the kit. And looking at this, you actually get all of the cutting guides, you get the layout examples that you can see there, and you get some different tips and techniques and some different ideas that you can use to create these 3 double page layouts. Now, if you follow what I do and my style of scrapbooking and how I document life, I use a variety of sizes and formats, but I only very rarely use a double page layout. So what I'm going to be doing today is taking these gorgeous supplies that came in the scrapbooking kit, and I'm going to be creating a single page layout, and my challenge to myself is to kind of kill a kit using the supplies in here and a few other bits and pieces that I'll bring in. So we've got one of these two-toned cardstocks, and I believe that is Lost Lagoon. We've also got some other cardstock tucked in the back here. I think this is the Pretty Peacock. You can see there we've got the dark and the light. I wasn't able to show you that with Lost Lagoon because there was only the one piece in there, and I need to check to see if I haven't already stolen a piece of it for another project that I was working on. So we've got these gorgeous die cut shapes. Now this video doesn't really do them justice because they're kind of a thick, almost a really thin wood veneer, but they're more than just some chipboard, so they're going to be quite fun to use. You've got these other exclusive die cut sheets that come in this kit, so the only way to get these is through purchasing this Everyday You and Me scrapbooking workshop. So Stampin' Up is working really hard to bring in more scrapbooking supplies, following close to my heart, team members joining with Stampin' Up and meeting a wee bit of a gap in that market. So this is one of those. There are currently 4 new ones that were released in early January. So there's some 4 gorgeous collections. So these double-sided papers here are part of, you can buy a paper pack that came with that sticker sheet that I showed you at the start. Now these 2 papers here are exclusive, and so is that one. And here's just the back of the pack. So you've got all of these gorgeous things, you've got some exclusive items, and I'm going to pull these together and have a play around trying to select what I'm going to do with this. So I'm sort of looking at the main pictures, but I'm looking at my photograph and thinking, what am I going to bring in here? Which die cuts, which shapes. Now on the back of each of the die cut shapes, watch my words get muddled together, it does talk about the thing. It's got like project 1, project 2 on the back, so you can easily find out where you're meant to link them in and what you're meant to do with them. So I'm just pulling out some bits that I think will work really well with this layout, and I am going to sort of cut around some of these stickers and some of these different bits and pieces and how they will work with these different this layout, and just how I can make it work for the way I want it to be. So a few of these items were listed as part of the layout, and I think project 2 was the main one that I've got these pieces from. Now I'm going to take this and cut it in half. I love this shape, and so I actually want to use it on more than one page. So by cutting it in half, I'm just sort of going to have it coming in from that right hand side and peeking in from that background. I'm going to use one of those exclusive sort of papers that are there. It's got lots of little foliage, little flowers and bits and pieces on there, and I've just trimmed that piece of designer series paper down to 10 by 10, and so I sort of play around with whether I'm going to center it or have it also coming in from the right hand side. So I've decided that I'll stick with one of the sort of backing pieces that was suggested in the original layout workshop, but I'm also going to pull in a few other pieces. So you can see I've sort of grabbed some of my scraps already in there. Now looking at this sort of nice vine, I decided I'm going to fussy cut around that, and I'm going to sort of layer that on the edge just to add a bit more interest. You'll often see in my pages that I do have that extra textural kind of thing going on. So I've decided that while I do like that vine there, I am going to sit it on sort of some of that bluey background. So there's just another wee dimension tucked in there and peeking that in on that right hand side. So it's very right hand side heavy at the moment. You could almost mirror or flip this layout around and have a right, so this would be your left page, and you could have a right hand page as well if you wanted to sort of follow this design or this concept and have a double page layout. But as I said at the start, that's not how I tend to work, and so I'm just creating this and making it my way, I guess. Now this little sticker that I've just popped down there says my happy place, and while the cat could say that, I'm actually going to later on cross the my out and write his. I was trying to do a little bit of scrapbooking, a little bit of creating, and Rua decided that he would rather sit right in front of me and make that extremely difficult. While he is absolutely gorgeous, he can be quite annoying and frustrating when he does tend to sit on what you're trying to do. Anyway, he eventually moved on, but not before I had taken a bit of a photo of him sitting on my desk, stopping me from doing any work. Now these these little stencils that are here are part of a different, they're not part of this collection, so you didn't see me pulling them out at the very start, but there's a variety of them. I think there's 5 or 6 different masks that are in this kind of set. They're called the Link Together Decorative Masks, and I'm just using a little bit of Lost Lagoon, and then I also pulled in some Misty Moonlight to do that. Now I'm using this handy dandy tool to stab a few holes all the way around the edge. You'll see I grabbed a foam mat for in the background. It just helps with putting pressure in and through these. I felt that since it was sort of a creative page and I love the soft tones on these papers, I'm going to pull out some of this thread and I am going to do a little bit of stitching. So it took me a wee while to find the end. It had been so well tucked underneath, and I eventually got there, and that was handy, and I just threaded that up, and I won't make you watch me sew all the way around it, but it is one of the colours from the Baker's Twine Essentials pack, and so I think it might be one of the greys that's in there. So I'm just going to thread it through and use my weave in the ends as I start, and at the end I also weave those ends back in underneath. So do that off screen, here we go. And I have stitched all that around, and you can see how those ends have been woven in. So we now really have the base pretty much ready to go. I've just got to add a few more of those other pieces that I started with. It can be helpful if you forget sort of what you had. If that's important or an issue for you, you can take a photo of what you sort of had in mind, and then you can go back to that a little bit later. But I was able to remember what these all came together like. So we've got 2 of these grey cats. So this one here is Rua, and he does tend to be the more social one. The other one is called Boxer, but looking at this photo, it reminds me of scrapbooking with friends. The reason being is I've had a couple of different groups of friends that have come over. Some have stayed for the weekend, and some just pop over to create, and I kind of miss those days and miss that freedom and those friends being able to pop in and do that. Hopefully to get back to that soon, but it'll be really nice to do that. But where I'm going to with this is, if there's a box in the middle of the table where we're creating, particularly a pizza box, Rua will sit in it. So maybe I need some kind of pizza box on my scrapbooking desk, and I'll find that he will stay put. So another thing that I often do on my pages is tucking up the corners, tucking in the paper edges and the sides, just because then they're not nice and neat. And I'm not sure why, but it's just something I like to do. Now I did forget to add the strip down on that right hand side, but luckily the way I glued the papers, I am able to just slide that underneath and just press that down, and then I'm going to bring that vine in. So I'm just going to use a little bit of the fine tip glue pen just to dot on a few of those leaves, so it's going to have enough stick and enough hold to maintain its position on the page. So I'm just laying that over those two strips that I had, and then putting that lid on. Now it takes a little bit, I probably should use my glasses a bit more, or even take my glasses off, it might help. So I'm going to pop that title on down there, and here's where I cross out the my, and I just write his, just because it wasn't really my happy place having him right in front of me, despite how gorgeous and lovely he is. It was a little bit inconvenient, and I did get a wee bit grumpy with him, I must admit. But yeah, he is rather gorgeous. Anyway, adding in some of these other die cuts around, and I'm just using the little dimensional there to just give it a little bit of lift, especially when it's going on a background that's not quite even. So I wanted to add a little cluster up on the top left, and while I was stitching the white sort of frame onto it, I was reminded of the To the Point punch and how it sort of had a similar-ish shape. So I felt it would be quite good to add this into the cluster up that top left. So you can sort of see that it has a similar-ish shape, or kind of it echoes that opposite side almost. So I am going to just tuck that on up there, working out where exactly, and I decide to sort of overlay it on that everyday paper. So going to add a little bit of masking to it, so it's just got a little bit of texture. It felt too white, so the I'm not sure what you'd call that piece that I've stitched on over the side, or what design that is. It's kind of a bracket or a frame or something like that, but it's sort of got a bit more texture, and it's almost an off-white or an ivory or something on there. And so by having that in place, I needed to soften the white instead of it being so bold. So I'm just adding on my journaling here, and I said it wouldn't be a scrapping session if Rua didn't try to sabotage my efforts. And the date, so that's January 2025. It happened sort of in the last few days actually. So that's one of the stickers that come in this kit, or it comes with the paper pack. So you can buy those particular stickers separately, but not these die cuts that I'm tucking on there. Working out where to put the flower, and decide to pop it down there. And so now I've got most of it all together, but it's just time to bring in some of these shapes, and some of them are tucked in behind my glass mat there, and just add them onto the page in a way that feels pleasing to me. So just using the green Tombow here and sticking them down. I find it as a great glue just for some of these heavier pieces, and it doesn't tend to make things buckle much, so it's a nice glue to use. Just don't use too much of it, because it can leave a bit of a shiny residue, and then you need to bring out the sort of glue, the adhesive rubber, to remove some of the bits. So again, just dotting on these shapes and popping them in places that I think feel right, and holding it down a wee bit so that that glue has a chance to stick. One of the beauties of using the glue is that you can move it, but in this case it's quite nice to hold it as well, so that it just gets that grip. So I'm really happy with how that's come out, and I did wonder whether I should be adding some little gems or something like that, but I decided I'm quite happy with what's on there. Those little leaves from those die cut, that die cut piece just adds to it, as well as the other bits that I popped in there. But you could go ahead and add some of it if that worked for your page and what you were creating. I do decide to use my Stampin' Up black marker just to go around the edge of both the title, just to help it stand out a bit, and that To the Point punched image up the top. And it just seems to add a nice balance with the stitching around the frame. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you have got some ideas on how you might use some of these scrapbooking kits, and I look forward to sharing with you some more in my channel. So if you've enjoyed watching this, please subscribe.